Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat pranams to all the devotees. Hope my voice is audible. Take this opportunity to welcome you all to today's session on Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. So today, as you can see, we are having Srila Prabhupada's Leelamrita, the nectar of Srila Prabhupada. And for this, we'll be sharing two videos. So one is from His Holiness Bhakti Charu Maharaj, and the other from Sri Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj. So that's it for today. So I'll share the video now. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Krishna Kirtana Ganana Ganapatau. You see, one Indian gentleman, middle-aged Indian gentleman who appeared to be like a very well-to-do businessman. So he asked Srila Prabhupada in a rather challenging way, why are you building new temples when there are so many old temples needing renovation and repair? So Srila Prabhupada didn't answer the question directly. Srila Prabhupada asked that man, who is that lady sitting next to you? So that man said, well, she's my wife. Then Prabhupada asked him, why did you get married? So the man got completely flabbergasted, so he couldn't answer. Then Prabhupada provided the answer. He said, you got married because you wanted to have children. Putrarthe kriyate bharja. One gets married, one accepts a wife in order to get children. But why get children when there are so many children loitering in the streets? And then Prabhupada explained that just as you want to have your own child, similarly devotee wants to build his temple and install Krishna, and in this way offer the temple to Krishna. One morning, Prabhupada was having his oil massage. Harisori Prabhu was giving him a massage on the roof of Prabhupada's quarters in Mayapur. I took some letters that I replied, went to Srila Prabhupada, and I used to read the letters out to, the replies out to Srila Prabhupada, and then Prabhupada used to sign them. Prabhupada signed the letters, and then he continued to take his massage. And although Prabhupada signed the letters and I should have left, but I just sat there and watching Srila Prabhupada having his massage. And then Prabhupada just started to speak on his own. I mean, addressing me. He told, many lifetimes you tried to enjoy, but you can see that you are still not satisfied. So just offer this life to Krishna and don't get involved with any woman. And then he explained the futility of man-woman relationship. He explained how sex desire is actually the chain that binds us in the material nature. And that's why the material nature is called Moithunagara, or a prison house of sex desire. And in this note, Srila Prabhupada spoke for about, I don't know for how long time, like half an hour, 45 minutes. And when I left, I felt that Prabhupada actually wanted me to become a sannyasi. I mean, that's just a feeling. So one morning, Srila Prabhupada wanted some orange juice. So there was no orange in Prabhupada's kitchen. So I went to the deity kitchen, devotee kitchen. There was no orange. So I had to go to the fruit shop, to buy some oranges. And those days, you remember, like there was nothing in front of our temple. So to get the oranges, I had to go quite a distance near the bus station. And so when I came back with the oranges, and I started to make the orange juice, and the bell rang. Srila Prabhupada used to call us by ringing the bell. And so I ran to Srila Prabhupada's room. So Prabhupada asked me what happened to the orange juice. So I said, well, Srila Prabhupada, I'm just getting it, And then I went back and started to make the orange juice. And then, it took me some time to make it. So the bell rang again. But this time, the bell just kept on ringing continuously, Prabhupada just kept pressing the bell, And just by the sound of the bell, I could understand, how angry Srila Prabhupada must be. So I somehow, finished making the orange juice, put it in Prabhupada's silver cup, and took it on a silver plate and rushed into Prabhupada's room. But as I opened the door, I heard something that sounded like a thunderbolt. And Prabhupada was just telling me, like, take it away, I don't want it. I don't want it, I'd get out of here. But, I could not get out, Like, so with the bowl with that plate with the glass of orange juice in my hands, I just kept on moving towards Srila Prabhupada. And I came to Srila Prabhupada and I held it in front of him. For some time, Srila Prabhupada didn't pick up the glass. And finally, Prabhupada picked it up and he started to drink it. When he started to drink it, I realized that I forgot to bring the bowl of water that Prabhupada would need to wash his mouth after drinking the juice. So I ran to the kitchen, got the bowl of water, and then when Prabhupada was washing his mouth, then I remembered that I forgot to bring the napkin for Prabhupada to wipe his face. So this time I didn't run to the kitchen, I just went to Prabhupada's wardrobe and pulled out a towel and gave it to Srila Prabhupada. So then Prabhupada started to tell me, "You're trying to serve me so nicely, but I always chastise you. You see, when one becomes old, one becomes short-tempered, so please don't mind." When Srila Prabhupada was chastising me, I didn't feel bad. But when Prabhupada started to speak like that, my heart just broke. And I tried to tell Prabhupada, "Please don't speak like that, Prabhupada." But my voice was choked. And then finally but Prabhupada continuously speaking, like in that note, like how when one becomes old, one becomes short-tempered. And then I managed to speak up and I told Prabhupada, "Please don't speak like that. I make mistakes, and if you don't correct me, then what will happen to me?" That's one of the instances I remember when Srila Prabhupada chastised me very heavily. You see, Prabhupada just opened the Gurukul in Vrindavan and opened a new building actually. The new building was constructed. The Vrindavan Gurukul was going on. The new building was inaugurated. And Srila Prabhupada was very happy with the new building and he used to tell people that about the Gurukul building when the people came for his darshan. So one very important businessman came to see Srila Prabhupada from Delhi. He is Jai Dayal Dalmia, one of the biggest industrialists in India. So he came with his 2 daughters-in-law and their children. And he was a very old man at the time, and very nice and pious man actually. So Srila Prabhupada was telling him about the Gurukul education system. And then he asked him to send his grandchildren to the Gurukul. And he explained to him that the modern education system is simply meant for creating Sudras, how to get a good job. That's the purpose of education. But your children, your grandchildren, do not need to get a job. But they should actually become the leader of the society. And that's why he should actually send his grandchildren to the Gurukul. And Srila Prabhupada also mentioned that, see, the Gandhis, Indira Gandhi's sons, Nehru's grandchildren, coming from such a aristocratic family, such a noble family, but look at them, they have become rascals and rogues. And he said that, do you want your grandchildren to become like that? No. Train them up to become the leaders of the society, a real leader of the society. And in this way Srila Prabhupada actually explained. Now later on I got to know his son, the father of one of the grandchild, and he told me that at that time his father was so convinced that he was planning to send his son to the Gurukul. And I know the son, his name is Abhishek Dalmia. Although he didn't go to Gurukul, but he has, although he didn't go to the Gurukul, but he keeps a Sikha, I mean, the family is very, very pious, and it's unfortunate that he didn't send his son to the Gurukul, but I mean, you can see the potency of Srila Prabhupada's preaching. He is one of the richest men in India, and he was considering to send his grandson to the Gurukul. This was, just a few days before Prabhupada left the planet. Two very prominent Indian gentlemen came to see Srila Prabhupada. One was the governor of Madras, Shriman Narayan, and his brother-in-law, Ramkrishna Bajaj, a very big industrialist. And so two of them came to Prabhupada's room, and some of us were there in Prabhupada's room. And at one point they just told that they wanted to discuss something in private with Srila Prabhupada. So Prabhupada asked us to leave the room. So, we left the room, although we didn't want to. But while leaving the room, I pressed the recording button of the tape recorder. And they asked Prabhupada who would actually have the legacy after Prabhupada left the planet. And Prabhupada mentioned to them that he is giving the legacy to all his disciples, and whoever follows will have the legacy. That was actually printed in the Back to Godhead that came after Prabhupada's disappearance, Prabhupada's final instructions, and this one was there. And then they figured out that the tape recorder was on, and they asked Prabhupada if they could switch off the tape recorder. So that was also there, in the tape recorder. I mean, it was taped. And I don't think after that they had any serious discussions. Actually, what they wanted to know, who would become Prabhupada's successor. But Prabhupada made it very clear that he is giving the legacy to all his disciples, all his followers. So whoever follows has the legacy. And he didn't want to appoint any successor as such. You see, it was in Vrindavan, one morning, Srila Prabhupada asked me to see if there is spinach, the two varieties of spinach, the green variety and the red variety. He asked me to see if we have these two varieties of spinach, if there was pumpkin, radish, eggplant, and bitter melon. So I went to the kitchen, and in Prabhupada's kitchen there was no spinach. So I went to the deity kitchen and devotee kitchen, and I was told that was the month of spinach fast. So I went and told Prabhupada that, Prabhupada, this is Chaturmas and this is the month of spinach fast. So Prabhupada asked me, is everyone observing Chaturmas? So I got the message. So I myself went to the market to buy everything. And I went to the market and I thought I got everything. Then I came back and I told Prabhupada, I got everything. So Prabhupada asked me, what you got? So I said, Prabhupada, I got these two varieties of spinach, I got eggplant, I got pumpkin, I got radish. And then I remembered that I forgot to get bitter melon. But it was so stupid of me, like I told Prabhupada, I lied to Prabhupada, and I said the bitter melon. So I thought, just arrange to get the bitter melon, like, and so Prabhupada said, bring them. Yeah. So I ran out, so Prabhupada asked me to bring it. So I ran out, and there was an employee in the kitchen, in the guest house. His name was Kishan. So I gave some money to Kishan, and I said, Kishan, take the cycle, go to the market, and get some bitter melon. And so I was, I thought it'll take 10-15 minutes, And in the meantime, I went to the kitchen, I started to prepare other preps. And I was kind of, running back to the gate and kitchen and back, And then finally Kishan came back, and he said that there is no bitter melon in the market. And so I already went to the kitchen, the devotee kitchen. There was no bitter melon. And at that time, I felt as if, the whole world is crumbled down on me, And I was literally praying to Krishna, like, please save me from, now I have to go and tell Prabhupada that I lied to him, that I forgot to bring bitter melon. And, like I was kind of dazed and walking back. I was kind of preparing myself. Now I have to go and tell Prabhupada. I didn't tell him at that time because I thought that Prabhupada would get annoyed with me and start chastising. And now, who knows, what kind of chastisement I'll get, And so usually what I used to do is take the passage next to the temple, the Parikrama Marg, and walk up to the up to Prabhupada's kitchen. But I was so dazed. I walked up to the Gurukul building, and then I started to, go that way through the Gurukul building. And there, I saw on the balcony, on that passage, to Gurukul, there is green bitter melon. I just pounced on that and started to thank Krishna in every possible way, and ran, picked up the vegetables and went to Prabhupada's room. And Prabhupada was already taking his massage. So before taking his bath, he used to take his massage. So I went to his room and I told Prabhupada I brought the vegetables. So Prabhupada told me how to cut the vegetables. And then finally I said, Prabhupada, and the bitter melon? And so Prabhupada looked at me and said, bitter melon. And just the way Srila Prabhupada said bitter melon, I was completely convinced beyond any doubt that Prabhupada knew what actually happened. Prabhupada taught me to cook one preparation called bati chachari. It is made with pottle and potatoes. And you put a lot of ghee and a lot of chili, lot of red chili. And so Prabhupada asked me to cook that preparation. But Prabhupada's stomach was not very good at that time. So while preparing that, I felt that I should not put so much red chili. So I cooked it, with, no, he had stomach problem. His stomach was not so good. So he didn't want any red chili. And he didn't want any red chili in the, I didn't put any red chili, thinking that, like his stomach was not good. And when I served, Prabhupada just took a bite and he became very angry. He said that I personally taught you how to cook it and you forgot. And he was very, very heavy. And not only at that time, for next 2 days, whenever I went near him, he just blasted me. And his point was, he personally taught me how to cook that, and I forgot. And not only he chastised me, whoever went to him, he also told him how useless I was. Then on the third day, when Prabhupada's anger subsided to some extent, and Prabhupada kind of, rather in a mild way this time, he asked me, how could you forget when I personally taught you? And then I told Prabhupada, I didn't actually forget. I deliberately didn't put it because I thought your stomach was not good. And red chili will not be good for your condition. Then Prabhupada told me, then why didn't you tell me all this while? And then he told me that ghee is hot and chili is hot. But when there is a lot of ghee and a lot of chili, they counteract each other's effect. But what touched my heart the most, if I can say so, was Prabhupada's concern for everyone. In one hand, Prabhupada was so strict, but at the same time, Prabhupada was so compassionate and so concerned. Like I remember Prabhupada for 2 months at least, he did not eat anything. Only once in a while he would take some juice, fruit juice, and a little diluted milk. But he would inquire how the devotees were eating, how the devotee prasad was. So one day Prabhupada asked me to go and check out how the devotee prasad was. And I came back and told that the prasad was not so nice. Then Prabhupada called the temple president and he chastised him. He asked why the prasadam was not nice. See, he himself couldn't eat anything for 2 months, but he was so concerned about how the devotees were eating. See, I was with Srila Prabhupada and we were living in Srila Prabhupada's quarters on the 6th floor of the tower. And one of my senior god brothers one day was little annoyed with me, and he started to chastise me very heavily. And those days I used to be quite sensitive, I was feeling really bad that he chastised me. Then I went to Srila Prabhupada on some, I had to do something. So when I went to Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada just on his own, he just started to tell me, you see, the sign of one's advancement, the sign of one's spiritual advancement is not in the big position one has. The real sign of advancement is how humble and how tolerant one has become. And just that instruction, took away all the, the heaviness from the heart. And I just remembered. And that instruction I often remember, that the sign of God is not opposition, but how humble and how tolerant we have become. When Prabhupada first went to Mayapur with his American disciples, they bought a piece of land in Mayapur, and so Prabhupada actually drove straight to Mayapur, our place. It was just a small hut that they built for Srila Prabhupada. without stopping at Gauramath, Chaitanya Math, and Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's Samadhi.
Sorry.
So some of his godbrothers commented that he didn't even stop at his spiritual master's Samadhi. So when Prabhupada heard about that, when Prabhupada was told that they were speaking like that, then Prabhupada commented, do they think that I am ever separated from my spiritual master even for a moment? My spiritual master is always with me. And that is how a disciple should always be conscious of his spiritual master. Like spiritual master is none other than the super soul. Is the super soul. Or actually the yogis, when they attain perfection, they see the super soul in the heart. A devotee, when he attains perfection, he sees his spiritual master in the heart. So pure devotion means to see his spiritual master in his heart all the time. So more we become Krishna conscious, more we make spiritual advancement, the more we will see Srila Prabhupada. And actually that's the benefit of being in ISKCON. Like everywhere we see Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada's devotees, everything is Srila Prabhupada, and that's what is actually protecting us from the onslaughts of Maya, but actually pushing us Krishna's lotus feet. Once I expressed my desire to learn Sanskrit to Srila Prabhupada. So Prabhupada asked me, why? What's the use? Yeah, that's how what he said. What's the use? So I started to tell Prabhupada, like giving him different reasons. And Prabhupada started to, smash all those reasons. And then finally he made the point that our business is not to become a Sanskrit scholar. There are so many Sanskrit scholars, but what are they doing? Our main business is to preach Krishna consciousness all over. Krishna consciousness. And then I started to tell him what actually happened. That I told him about Bhima's Mahaprasthan. Prabhupada heard about that, and right after that, Prabhupada was planning to go for a parikrama of Govardhan, and I feel Prabhupada is actually planning to go on a Mahaprasthan himself. The final departure. And then Babaji Maharaj said, then we can't let him go. Then I said, Babaji Maharaj, the only person who can convince Prabhupada not to go is you. So Babaji Maharaj was so humble, he said, me? How can I tell him? So I said, you are the only person who can actually convince him. So then Babaji Maharaj, he just got up, washed his hands and mouth, and walked straight up to Srila Prabhupada and said, I heard everything and I feel that you should not go to parikrama. Then Prabhupada said, Babaji Maharaj, if you say so, then I will not go. And at that time, we kind of took it for granted that Srila Prabhupada came to Vrindavan to leave his body, And so around that time, Tamal Krishna Maharaj one day, he told me that we don't really know if what to do if Prabhupada leaves his body, if Prabhupada left his body. I didn't know. We didn't know what to do. So he asked me to find out from Krishna's Babaji Maharaj. And so, I went one afternoon, late afternoon, I went to Madhav Maharaj's mutt, where Krishna's Babaji Maharaj was staying. So I went, but Babaji Maharaj was not there. So waiting for him for a while, I just came back. So when I came back, Upendra Prabhu, who was Prabhupada's servant at that time, told me that Prabhupada was looking for me. So I ran into Prabhupada's room and asked him whether he wanted me to do anything. So Prabhupada asked, where did you go? Where were you? So I said, Prabhupada, I went to Madhav Maharaj's mutt. So Prabhupada asked, why did you go there? I mean, his voice was ringing with anger, like, he said, why did you go there? And I couldn't answer, why I went there, it was, how could I say why I went there? And I was just silent, and then Prabhupada's voice kept on, rising. And he was screaming, like, why did you go there? So finally I said, Prabhupada, I went to see Krishna's Babaji Maharaj. And then Prabhupada's voice became even louder with anger. And he asked, why did you go there? So I finally said, Prabhupada, Tamal Krishna Maharaj wanted me to go there. And then Prabhupada said, oh, I see. He became quiet. From that, I learned a lesson that Prabhupada didn't want us to go out to anybody. Although he had such a good relationship with Babaji Maharaj, still he didn't want us to go to him. And that actually, it makes it, later on I got to know, like, how Prabhupada said that if they say one thing different from me, then everything will be spoiled. And that's why Prabhupada didn't want us to go anywhere. He was like a caring father, who was just protecting us from any danger.
Je anilo premadana.
An ISKCON temple on I first came to an ISKCON temple on Labor Day weekend, 1967, in Montreal. I was studying in Toronto, and I'd come for the weekend to visit Expo. And I casually asked one of my friends, is there any Hindu temple in Montreal? He said, yes, the Americans have opened some temple here. Why don't you visit it? So I went to the Montreal temple on Labor Day weekend, 67. And I took part in the Sunday program. The kirtan just went on and on and on and on. And as I was leaving the temple, they had a visitor's book in which I wrote down my name and address. And after returning to Toronto, I started getting a letter every month informing me about the schedule and asking for donation. And in May 68, I received a letter. Our Swamiji is coming to Montreal on June 1st, 68. Please come and meet him. So I was planning on relocating back to Montreal in any case. And I arrived in Montreal on May 31st. And the first assignment the temple president gave me was to clean Prabhupada's apartment, because Prabhupada was coming the next day, and Prabhupada resided at 420 Prince Arthur. So I had the privilege of meeting Prabhupada on June 1st, 1968. And I had almost no exposure to sadhus in India. In fact, there was one Bengali gentleman, Mr. Mukherjee. We used to come to meet Prabhupada regularly. He told me, oh, the sadhu is different. Anyway, as time went along, I could see that Prabhupada was a genuine saint. He quoted from the scriptures. He never said something of his own. He was like a real well-wisher, very friendly. And he wanted everyone to be happy. But he knew that real happiness will only come if we follow the scriptures. And Prabhupada was always straightforward. And in those days, there were not so many devotees. Prabhupada actually stayed in Montreal for 3 months. He had some green card problems in America. So he had to go out of America. And he came to Montreal on June 1st, and he stayed on till August 68. And in those days, leaders from different parts of America would regularly come to meet Prabhupada. As I said, I had zero exposure to sadhus. I had never been to Vrindavan in my life. I had never even heard of Vrindavan or Mayapur before I met Prabhupada. And I had never heard of Lord Chaitanya. The brief introduction about Prabhupada was given to me by the Bengali gentleman who said, I've touched the feet of many sadhus, but he looks special. And as I said earlier, Prabhupada also gave me a lot of attention. I was Prabhupada's first Indian disciple in the West. And Prabhupada had a strong desire to also preach to the Indians. And he wanted them to take to Krishna consciousness. Actually, there was one Indian who had joined from Buffalo, but he didn't stay for long. In June 68, we had gone to a high school engagement in a Christian school. It was a school for girls, and there were many nuns in the school. And this program was arranged by a French-Canadian devotee called Janardhan Prabhu. He was doing his PhD at that time. So Prabhupada gave the lecture, and as usual after Prabhupada's lecture, he would say, any questions? The same Mr. Mukherjee, who had told me that Prabhupada was a different type of saint, got up from his chair and started attacking Prabhupada. He started saying, why do you have to come and preach this philosophy in these Christian countries? They have their own philosophy. You don't need to do this. Devotees were very upset in the way he was being attacked. Prabhupada was not being criticized by the Christian nuns. He was being criticized by one of the people who came in his entourage. So the devotees were very upset, and Prabhupada was very cool. In August, Prabhupada was leaving Montreal to go to America. And he told me, Gopal, go and call that Mr. Mukherjee. I said, Prabhupada, he insulted you so badly. Why do you want to see him? And Prabhupada said, I must have done something to him in my last life for which he took revenge. So Prabhupada, I called this gentleman, and Prabhupada blessed him before leaving. So from this we can see how magnanimous and merciful Prabhupada was. And even though this man had humiliated Prabhupada, he really attacked Prabhupada very badly. Prabhupada tolerated it, did not utter one word, and in fact he blessed him before leaving. So I think from this example we should draw inspiration and not retaliate the moment somebody criticizes us. We have to learn to practice Sinadapi Sunicena. When Prabhupada was in Montreal, he opened a bank account in the Canadian Imperial Bank of Commerce, and the branch, I believe, was on Sherbrooke Street. And Prabhupada told me to handle that account for him. So I was giving Prabhupada regular reports, and Prabhupada saw that the bank was charging a high fee for some reason. And Prabhupada was so concerned about saving every penny of Krishna's money. He said, tell the bank not to charge this fee. And Prabhupada, I think, they had closed the bank account because the bank was charging a high fee. As we know from numerous examples, Prabhupada's concern was not to waste even a penny of Krishna's money. He viewed everything as Krishna's property. And whenever he saw some misuse, he would take steps to stop it. As Prabhupada was in Montreal, many leaders would come there, and Montreal had become a focal point. In fact, Prabhupada saw some buildings in Montreal and said, this could be our world headquarters. He was at one time planning on making the world headquarters in Montreal. And Prabhupada saw everything as a possible. Prabhupada always was thinking how he can use everything in service of the Lord. There was one lady who came to meet Prabhupada, and Prabhupada, as usual, preached to her, please chant Hare Krishna mantra. The lady said, Swamiji, I'm always chanting, 24 hours. Prabhupada said, 24 hours? How do you chant? She said, I'm mentally chanting 24 hours. So Prabhupada said, when you're hungry, do you mentally eat or do you physically eat? She said, physically. Prabhupada said, no, you should start eating mentally. So she realized, and Prabhupada told her, if you want to chant the holy name, you should chant it and hear, not just mentally go on chanting. That is as good as no chanting. So this lady was convinced that what Prabhupada said was right. So Prabhupada emphasized that we chant the holy name and hear the holy name. And as the scriptures say, the more attentive we are in chanting, the greater will be the effect, and the faster will be the cleansing of the heart. Prabhupada came to India with his Western disciples, I believe in 1971 or something. Anyway, they created a big stir. Prabhupada held festivals in major cities of India. And these festivals were attended by over 30,000 people. So taking advantage of the popularity of the Hare Krishna movement, one leading movie star in India made a movie called Hare Rama, Hare Krishna. The movie was a big hit in India. It was a super hit. The positive thing in the movie was the Hare Krishna mantra was being played in the background in the whole movie, and they had a song which had the Hare Krishna mantra. But the weak point in the movie was it showed that devotees take drugs, then they feel high, and then they chant Hare Krishna. So this movie was released in India in 1973. So at that time I was residing in America, but I had just come to India for a holiday. So I met Prabhupada in Akash Ganga, and I told him, Srila Prabhupada, this movie is going to give our movement a bad name. Our movement was brand new in India at that time. And I said, this movie is showing that we chant Hare Krishna and people take drugs, so that will spoil our image. Prabhupada was totally undisturbed. He said, nothing will be lost. People will hear the Hare Krishna mantra and get purified. Don't worry. And very interestingly, about 3 years ago, I initiated a devotee in America, and I asked him, how did he join the movement? So he told me when he was a young kid, there was a movie released called Hare Rama, Hare Krishna. And he heard the Hare Krishna mantra in that movie. And after that, he fell in love with this mantra. And he would go everywhere where he could hear this song that was a big hit. But that movie planted the seed of Krishna consciousness in his heart. And 25 years later, or 35 years later, he got initiated. So what Prabhupada said was right. People will hear the holy name and benefit. Prabhupada is always right. We should know that. Before I came, there was almost no book production in India. So Prabhupada told me to start the book production. And Prabhupada was very keen that we publish a lot of books. At that time we were just beginning to publish books. So in 1976, I believe 77, I had arranged a very big book display of Prabhupada books in a very big book house called International Book House. This was a very big book house, and they were distributing Time and Reader's Digest. And the owner was a life member, and I was cultivating him. So I arranged a very big display in his store. We had Prabhupada books on display, all the promotion material. And we ran this promotion for 1 month. But after 1 month, not many books were sold. So I went to Prabhupada to give him a report that even though we had a very heavy promotion, prominent display in the windows, etc., we didn't sell a lot of books. And Prabhupada said, my books are sold because of the enthusiasm of my disciples. And in a store, nobody's enthusiastic. That's why. So we have seen that when devotees are enthusiastic, they achieve outstanding results. And what the service is, especially book distribution. And not enthusiastic. If we do something half-heartedly, then the results are not the same. Prabhupada repeated that twice or thrice. My books are sold because of the enthusiasm. I usually tell the story in noise. They all testify that when they're enthusiastic, very good results. But when they're in 76, we took Prabhupada's books, we showed them to scholars in Moscow and Leningrad. At that time, St. Petersburg was called Leningrad. And they appreciated the books. And then we went there again in 77. When I went there in 77, the late Prithu Putra Maharaj was there, also in Bhagavata. So we took part in the book fair. It was a very big book fair. And in the end, we got a certificate from the Soviet government appreciating Prabhupada books for bringing world peace. So I received this certificate in Bombay around September 77. I took it to Prabhupada, who was in Vrindavan. His health wasn't so good. Prabhupada was so happy with that certificate that Soviet government has recognized Prabhupada's books as contributing to world peace. That Prabhupada showed that certificate to everyone who came. His godbrothers would come, he would say, this is the recognition we got from Soviet Union. Unfortunately, we've lost that certificate somewhere. I feel really sorry. But Prabhupada very much appreciated that the Soviet government was appreciating our books. One of the big problems in those days was visas for Americans. At that time, we virtually had no Indian devotees. Some were beginning to join, and 99% of our devotees were American. And they were all having visa problems. Constantly, they had to go out of the country and come back. So this was a great source of anxiety to Prabhupada. And he personally met and deputed me to meet people to try and get the Indian government to give us some concession. So I went and saw the Home Minister, the Foreign Minister of India at that time, who was Mr. Vajpayee. And I went to Vajpayee with a plea that some concession be given to ISKCON devotees. And when I came back to Vrindavan that evening and gave Prabhupada the report of the meeting, Prabhupada said, one day this man will become more important. He'll hold a very important position. And a few years later, he became the Prime Minister of India. Prabhupada was very concerned that we don't give away free books. We had a program in the Home Minister of India's house. Prabhupada personally came and gave the lecture. And after the lecture, I gave the Home Minister secretary many books, more than I should have. So some devotee told Prabhupada that I gave about 10, 12 books free. And next day Prabhupada was very, very upset. He said, you shouldn't give away these books like this. We should be very careful. In other words, Prabhupada didn't want us to freely give out books. I mean, he wanted these books to be respected. Sometimes when you give free, people don't value it so much. So I learned my lesson at that time. And I've been telling devotees, we should be very cautious how we give these free books. One day at 1 o'clock in the night, Prabhupada called for me. Prabhupada would often call for his secretaries and GBCs, even in the middle of the night, because Prabhupada would be busy serving Krishna 24 hours. It's not that he went to sleep. He would get up at 10:30 in the night and start his translation work. So Prabhupada had written an ad. The ad was said in brief, open invitation from ISKCON to all of India. And the invitation was, Prabhupada said, India is a poor country. I will feed everyone. So he wrote an ad on the paper with his own handwriting. Open invitation, come and live with us, like us. And Prabhupada said, go tomorrow to all the newspapers, tell them to put this in the papers, and put billboards that ISKCON is inviting everyone to come and live with us, like us. So I asked Prabhupada, we don't have the means to do that. Where are we going to feed everyone and accommodate everyone? And Prabhupada said, come and live with us, like us. Like us means they have to follow our principles, chant Hare Krishna. And if they're ready to do that, then I will maintain all of them. Not that they could do their nonsense and we will maintain. So Prabhupada was very intelligent. He said, open invitation, come and live with us, like us. We were getting ready for the Kumbh Mela, and I think it was 77 or 76. It was a big Kumbh Mela. And we were thinking of publishing cheap books for mass distribution. So I think we published a small book. But many people were suggesting we print the Bhagavad Gita like Gita Press has without any purpose. And they said, we'll sell lakhs. So I thought it was a good idea. And being the BBT manager, I went to Prabhupada and said, everyone is saying we can print the Gita like Gita Press without purpose and we'll distribute lakhs. Prabhupada said, no, you can't print any book without purpose. And he said, this is not acceptable. So the point is, Prabhupada's purpose makes us understand the books better. And without Prabhupada's purpose, we are free to make our own interpretation. And Prabhupada was very keen that people understand this knowledge as it is. So I've told this to BBD managers all over the world. So before the Prabhupada's departure in Bombay, I was discussing with Prabhupada how are we going to manage the Bombay temple. And Prabhupada said, make a council and have decisions made in the council. And Prabhupada said there's a Bengali saying that if you make a decision in a group and something goes wrong, you can always say, I didn't make it alone. Everybody was a party to the decision. And if you do it on your own and something goes wrong, you take the blame. So Prabhupada wanted a small council to be involved in decision making. Prabhupada was very particular about cleanliness. So one day he was sitting in the front room and he just asked me, how is everything? And I said, okay. And then he looked up at the nest, looked up at the ceiling, and then he saw there was a nest in that small room, with a bird or two inside. He said, you say everything's okay? This is okay? Okay, let's do it. Prabhupada had very, very sharp eyes. As some of you may know, Prabhupada would be translating books in the night. So one day he got up and he saw that the watchman wasn't there. The watchman at the front gate, at the gate in front of the guest house, wasn't there. So Prabhupada was very concerned. So he thought of a good plan. He told the watchman, every hour equal to the time, you have to ring the bell. And Prabhupada's logic was, if the watchman has to ring the bell every hour, he won't go to sleep. So that was the background that led to the introduction of the watchman ringing the bell every hour. Prabhupada was an expert manager. He knew how to solve all problems. To attract donations, we have to give the donor some tax benefit. and we were having trouble in maintaining our tax-exempt status. So many professional lawyers and chartered accountants suggested, why don't you set up a research institute? And if you set up a research institute, the government will give you 100% tax exemption. So we came up with a plan that we'll have a research institute called Vedic Research Institute. So when the Prabhupada said, this plan could attract a lot of donations, and if we can establish a Vedic Research Institute. And Prabhupada said, why Vedic Research Institute? Vyasadeva has done all the research. We don't need to do any further research. And there's no need of Vedic Research Institute. So Prabhupada was not interested that it will attract more donations. Prabhupada wanted to preserve the purity, and he was concerned that under the banner of Vedic research, we may speculate, whereas he has given us the real philosophy in his purports to the books that he published. Prabhupada was in his room doing his japa when some guests came in and they started knocking at the door saying they want to see Prabhupada. The secretary said Prabhupada is taking rest. But Prabhupada overheard some people want to see him, and they were disappointed that they couldn't see him. So Prabhupada was so concerned that he told his secretary, let them come in, open the door. And Prabhupada sat for 2-3 hours and preached to the guests. So but this just shows how Prabhupada was always concerned about preaching. And even when he wasn't physically well, he did not stop his preaching. And as we know, in Vrindavan, even in his last few months on the planet, when he wasn't physically well, he did not stop his translation work. He would go on with his translation. He had Pradyumna read the Sanskrit. He had somebody helping him sit down. He was virtually whispering the purports. But he did that because he wanted to save humanity. He wanted to leave behind scriptures that could save humanity. So we should also cultivate a similar mood. As far as I can see, Prabhupada was a Vaikuntha man. Once Prabhupada was asked to speak about his spiritual master, and Prabhupada said, what can I speak? He was a Vaikuntha man. So Prabhupada was also a Vaikuntha man. In my opinion, he possessed all the 26 qualities. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had predicted that the holy name will be chanted in every town and village of the world. And I have no doubt that Prabhupada appeared to fulfill this realization, this prediction of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Prabhupada was an empowered preacher. One great Acharya, one great Vaishnava said he was a Shaktavesh avatar, but he was an empowered preacher who was sent by Lord Chaitanya to take the holy name to every corner of the globe. And today we see that Prabhupada's glories are increasing even faster. You can go to any corner of the globe, people have heard of Prabhupada. In fact, many people come to the temple and say, when is Swamiji going to speak? In fact, many people write and say, where's the author of these books? And Prabhupada's fame is all over the world. And as we preach and spread the movement, his fame will increase more and more. We have to understand that everything we need to know is there in Prabhupada's books. Have faith in the books, have faith in Prabhupada's instructions, follow the GBC body, and we will be able to cross over insurmountable problems. We need to be determined to follow Prabhupada's path. Not that we say, yes, I'm a Prabhupada Nuga and do my own thing. Prabhupada Nuga means following Prabhupada 100%.
Je anilo premadana koruna.
Hare Krishna. So that was very wonderful nectarian anecdotes that was shared by both the Maharajas. Their personal interactions and the learnings were very inspiring. A great lesson for all of us. It was so personal, as though it was happening right in front of our eyes. And then the message was also very clear. Though we overshot the time limit, but I think it was every second was worth it. Now, if there is anybody wants to make any comment or any reflections they have, please go ahead. Otherwise, we can conclude today's session. So devotees can unmute, and then if they want to say anything, please go ahead. Okay, I think we'll keep the nectar intact. So on this note, we will conclude today's session. Thank you, devotees, once again for joining. Offering obeisances to all the Vaishnavas. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Prabhupada Lilambuta ki jai. His Holiness Hari Bol. His Holiness Bhakti Charu Maharaj ki jai. His Holiness Gopal Krishna Maharaj ki jai. Thank you all. We will conclude now. Hare Krishna.